Hey everyone, topic number 3 with Omar this morning is going to be condos versus single family homes. How you doing, Omar?
Pretty good. How are you, Michael?
Doing very well. So if I guessed right, I'm guessing the high desert has a lot of single family homes, but not a lot of condos. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, because we're more rural.
Yeah.
Remember,
Land is cheaper.
yeah, yes,
Yeah. So let me share my thoughts. And again, I'm doing this conversation from an investor perspective. The first 2 conversations we had today were very owner occupied. This one's more investor because I get this a lot. I live in the Silicon Valley, and a lot of new investors ask me about condos. And this is my impression. Sometimes they say it, sometimes they don't. The reason new investors in the Bay Area are looking at condos is because the sticker price is cheaper, right? For example, a new condo in the Bay Area might go for 5, 6, 700 grand. I realize that's asinine, but when you look at the context of a single family home being 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, it makes sense, right? It's just
right.
freaking nuts out here. But unfortunately, what I think most people don't realize is, at least in my opinion, one guy's opinion, it's free advice, so it's worth what it's worth, or it's worth what you paid for it, is condos come with this thing often called association fees or dues, or HOAs, or whatever you want to call it. So as a landlord, HOAs are helpful in one respect because they're all standard, right? Paint colors, and it does the outside maintenance, and there are lots of good things. But I have seen HOAs go bust. One of the biggest things I learned from the '08 crash was condos are extremely risky, right? There were several condo conversions in our local market and in the market I invest in that went bust. And what does that mean? That means investors bought them, or homeowners bought them, and they stopped paying their dues, right? So if you have 100 units and 50 are paying and 50 aren't, you're running into a deficit. And then what ultimately happens is those places will be foreclosed, but you're still short. And then you get what's called one-time assessments.
Mm-hmm.
And when condos go bust, because they have to, there's written into the laws where they can't go below reserves and things of that nature. So somebody's got to pay it. And then what you have is you'll have HOAs going up every year, sometimes substantially. So it's kind of, HOAs to me in California are kind of like single family homes in other states where tax assessment happens every year.
Yes.
And yeah, like Texas. Yeah. And then, oh, by the way, my cash flow gets squeezed and I can't really fight it. At least in Texas, you can fight property assessments and sometimes win, but you can't fight the HOA. I've never seen anybody get an HOA lowered. So what I end up telling most new investors is, it's never really this black and white, but most of the time avoid HOAs or avoid condos, because they're eventually going to squeeze your cash flow. And I've always said, looking at something because it's cheap, that's kind of the wrong answer. If you have to buy in the Bay Area, maybe, but you don't have to, right? I eventually looked 2.5 hours away and found a market that worked. The Bay Area is just stupid priced, and it really doesn't make sense as a landlord area, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll second that too, Michael, because that HOA will eat into your cash flow.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, just because, and then if rents are high, nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. Oh, I can get 1,700, 1,800 bucks. Cool. Well, minus $200, minus 250, whatever your HOA is. Yeah. Now you're only making 1,500, right? And then your mortgage payment might be 13 or 12. So now you're only making $200-300 a month when you thought you were going to be making $500-600. So there's a difference, and if there's a change in any market, interest rate, this, that, if that interest rate drops, or if it increases, the rent's going to drop because everything's going to be more affordable. Yeah. So if it's more affordable, rents will start coming down. That means the HOA is not coming down. No, it's staying the same.
I've never seen an HOA go down.
Never.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Super crazy.
Yeah. So in the end, what I would tell most Bay Area investors, and again, if that's what you want to do, it's great. It's not for me. I think in general, condos are looked at because they're seen as cheaper than houses, but they're really not cheaper, right? When you look at a 2,000 rent, but then you lose 250 to the HOA, you really have a net of 1,750. Look at the net. And oh, by the way, that net changes every year. Your mortgage doesn't change, right? Right. Property taxes will go up. HOA will go up, and you just the cash flow gets squeezed. And oh, by the way, there's all kinds of headaches. Even some, like the condo community I live in, you can't rent the place out, right? There's laws. You can do short term, like 6 months if you have to move out of the country or something, but you have to get approval, right? HOAs are very intrusive, I think is the word I'm looking for.
That's a great word. Very intrusive.
Yeah.
You have to show them everything.
Yeah. And they're just, yeah, they get to make the rules, and they're the judge and jury, which is not always fun. So I think there's a lot of downside.
Yeah. There, one thing I will tell you, or to share with the group, as the investor, yes, HOA are bad, but you know what? No, I'm not going to say bad. They're not as
You have to
profitable.
understand them. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. But if you're going to live there,
Yeah,
different story,
totally.
because you're going to live there and you have peace of mind.
Mhm.
You're paying a little bit extra.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like living in a nice community that's always maintained. So you
Yeah.
know that there's a bunch of people that aren't going to mess up the neighborhood.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. Okay.
Totally
So
agree.
if you wanted to like, okay, you want to buy a property for yourself, you're not going to go spend 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. You'll go spend $500,000, $550 on the condo,
Mhm.
in an HOA, and that's a substantial difference. And now instead of you buying that 1.2, 1.3, take the rest of the money that you could probably afford and then reinvest it in SFRs. So now it pays you to live where you're at.
I love it. And that's what we do. Again, we moved into this place in the late 90s, and we've never left. We live in a condo or a townhouse or whatever the freaking things are called.
It
So
does not matter too. It's
doesn't
freaking
matter.
awesome.
It's awesome. Well, good, man. I just wanted to have these topics with you. Again, if folks want to buy something in the high desert, how can they get a hold of you?
You guys can DM me. You have my handle there at Omar_Alfaro, or my email, omar@omaralfaro.com.
Very cool, man. Well, thanks for your time this week.
You're welcome. Thanks, Michael.
Uh-huh.